Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People and Drugs. I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Gerry Devitt with us. Hey Gerry, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
No problem at all, Sam. Glad to be here.
Great stuff. Now, you're a very funny person, and I'm sure our audience will be busy screaming at each other just because they're strange people.
Exactly.
But,
Panties being thrown at laptops now as we speak.
indeed so, indeed so. What will calm them, I think, is your comedy origin story. What did you fall from the sky in a kind of comedy comet sent by the Valar to bring order to Middle Earth? And with your comedy, how did it all kick off?
Yeah, the Valar. Yeah, no, he was out to lunch. Um, no, how did it start? Well, I just fancied to go at it. And then I done, but I didn't want to go straight into it, so because that's quite intimidating thing to do, obviously.
Mm.
So I done comedy sketch writing course in the King's Head, not like on a Thursday night, but like on a Saturday they run a comedy sketch writing course,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and I signed up to that. Like, so that was like less scary proposition, right? And I signed up to do that, and then there was a few guys, there's a few guys in their mid 30s or whatever, nothing else to do,
Mm.
and we were writing away, and we'd write sketches each Saturday,
Mm.
and then we'd have to perform each other's sketches. And the woman who ran it, who's the woman who runs the Thursday night comedy, she said, "Oh, you've got great delivery. You should do stand up," she said.
Mm.
And yeah, so like I guess I was the class clown of the comedy thing. Uh, and yeah, and we done it. So I think I was all right on the yeah. So I was good at doing the delivery of the sketches. Um, but actually, incidentally, we did do like a stand up thing at the end of this, and I came in with big billing because everyone was like, "Oh, he should do stand up and all this sort of stuff." But big billing within the relativity of a group of seven blokes in their 30s,
Mm.
a little room in Crouch End. And yeah, and I done this, and well, a lot of people bombed because it was everyone's first time.
Mm.
Real hard. Oh my god! Set up there for 10 minutes. I could have left after 10. It was my longest, hardest bomb. Had some good ones. Um, but it was so bad because they were all thinking I was going to be some, you know.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so it was like, oh. And they gave nothing. The way if I was in an audience, and it was just like two or three, I might just give a few embarrassed laughs. You know what I mean? These
Mm.
guys were stoned. It was yeah. So that was it. And then after a few months later, I think I then done a comedy stand up course,
Oh really?
and yeah, and the night of that was absolutely terrifying as well. That was a big, raucous, albeit friendly audience,
Uh-huh.
at the open night of that thing. But I think I forgot my line.
Yeah. I think
Outer body experience.
mm, mm. So, Jerry, I'm noticing that I think I'm not necessarily picking up all of your audio. We might need to turn off our videos just to make sure that all the audio is coming through. So, I mean,
If I go closer,
um, I think it's well. I would suggest maybe turning off the video. It's a shame because it's nice to be able to see each other for the chatting. But I was sort of understanding most of what you were saying.
oh, you missed it.
Oh no, no, no! I've got careful notes on it. I mean, you were talking about the comedy sketch writing course, and I think you were. Did you say the name of where it was that you did the comedy sketch writing course? There was little bits of audio that were cutting out, unfortunately. And
Right. Yeah, no, I done it in the King's Head.
King's Head. Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Is,
yeah.
is that of downstairs at the King's Head fame?
Downstairs in the King's Head, they run,
Ah,
or they used to anyway, a comedy
yes.
writing thing.
Right, right.
I went to that as a way to dip in my toe, stand up.
Yes, yes. No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, maybe the audio is coming through slightly better now, and hopefully, Yeah, that will not be a problem going forward. Yeah, all right. So you were saying you fancy to go, but stand up was sort of a bit kind of more intimidating, and you thought, oh, I'll do that easy comedy sketch writing first, is what you thought.
Yeah, exactly. And it was still fucking nerve-wracking doing that,
Yeah.
on a Saturday doing that because you have to write something, then you and the guys there your classmates or whatever have to
Mm.
act it out, and you
Yeah,
either, it's like all comedy, you either get laughs or you don't,
absolutely.
kind of thing. Yeah. Did you get the bit where I said I done the 10 minutes of a stand-up thing at the end?
No, absolutely. And you were saying that it was well, absolutely. You got you mentioned Crouch End. I should have inferred the King's Head. Yeah, I mean, what I was is hearing that you're doing this thing, and I think you kind of well, the lady who'd been doing something on the Thursday night said that you should do some stand up, and then so I guess what I was slightly the thing at the end of the comedy sketch writing course was, I mean, you were performing the sketches every week, but then you had like a special stand-up version of it that you did at the end.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, and you were saying you did like 10 minutes and and this was
I didn't
th-
have
th-
to do
th-
10. I could have done
yeah.
5.
Oh, you didn't do
I
10.
done 10 minutes of hard, unadulterated, purebred bombing.
Yeah, right. You were saying like how generally audiences will give you a little something, but it was just totally so. And
Yes.
was this then downstairs at the King's Head as part of their open mic, or was it a special one just only for you guys who'd been doing the comedy sketch writing course?
Yeah, no, it was nothing to do with the King's Head Thursday night thing at all, really.
Oh, okay, right. But this was but they
No,
but so
the woman who runs that was also sort of organizing this.
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
But there was I guess that initial 10 minutes, that does sound like a really hard bomb. You'd been preparing material for that was related to the sketch course, or just you were like, oh, I'll just wing it, or what was your approach to that first set?
No, I had an idea of stuff to say, but you know how it is when you first like you do a first cold set of stand up, which is what this was.
Mm,
You've no idea really what to do. You know what I
mm,
mean.
mm-hmm,
So I was doing practice bits with the guys on the in the course, but then I decided, and they were working, I think, but with them at least. Um, but then I decided to do something different. And
mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, and then that's remarkable. I mean, I guess, after that extremely difficult first experience, you were like, wow, that was really painful. Let me do a stand-up course. And I guess it was painful in a way that you were thinking, okay, I need some training before I do this again. I mean, other people would have just given up at that point. What was driving you on?
Um, yeah, like I was, yeah, like I knew, like that I didn't have a clue, what to actually do. I didn't think that like, I couldn't make people laugh. You know what I mean? They just
Mm,
that one. It's all about choices, isn't it? What do you choose? And you know, it's choices and impressions. So what you choose to do, what that particular group's impression of it is. So
mm,
another group would have a different impression. So I'm, like I'm wise enough to know that like it can change from one night to another, and and that I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
right,
So
right. Yeah, go on.
you don't know what to do. You don't know. You don't have an idea of what to actually do.
No, absolutely. I mean, to start with, I mean, and unless one does a comedy course in which, not that magically makes you able to have perfect sets every time, but and then so which was the comedy course that you did?
Oh, what was the name of the? His name was Brian.
Okay,
Uh,
the Brian comedy course, stand-up course.
he
Yeah,
was Brian. Yeah, something or other. Yeah, I can't actually
no,
remember
no,
what it
no,
was.
no problem at all. It's obviously left a very strong impression
Um,
on you. Yeah, and but so
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that
but
was
yeah,
go on.
that was basically, they taught you a couple of things like the rule of three or the tagging and stuff like that,
Right.
tagging bits, tagging uh, jokes to an initial joke.
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And but basically, what you done there was you done little miniature 2 minute, 3 minute sets in over a few Saturdays,
Yeah.
and then you to test some stuff to see what worked, and then you eventually done like five on the big opening night, where everybody brought like everybody they knew to it. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm bringing one person,
Mhm.
if even, I was
Yeah.
like, okay. Like, yeah, that idea of you know, you know, you're. I wouldn't bring someone on a fucking driving exam, a driving lesson. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I
Yeah, you
definitely
you
wouldn't
wouldn't
bring
necessarily
it.
want your entire family and friends and everybody you ever met and known there
Yeah,
on
look
that
at this
night.
thing I've barely done any work on, and watch me, and
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I mean, I did a similar. I had didn't occur to me particularly to be doing a comedy sketch writing course. Yeah, I mean, I did the Muse Moose's stand-up course, and yeah, I had a similar ending night thing where I mean, I managed to bring one person. I mean, that was partly just I think only one person was willing to come. But other people did bring many more. And I think for some people doing the course, they were kind of like never planning to do stand up again. So it was kind of a bit like this kind of jumping out of the plane. This is the one time I'm ever going to do this. You
yes,
guys should all come and see me do this. But it sounds like you had already got a sort of a trajectory in your mind. You'd already got the sense that, like, as you're describing with this having a go at the first one that was a post comedy sketch writing course, and sort of you were maybe in your mind already thinking about longer term. This is something that I want to do and that I will get better at over time. And I'm not necessarily going to invest so much what's the social capital in each of these things, or indeed nervousness necessarily.
yes, yeah. Well, no nervousness. Yeah, no, I was nervous as hell with that thing, so that was unavoidable.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm definitely not gonna like invest loads of. Yeah, and I was thinking, yeah, I'll give it a go, and try it out on the circuit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, you did say you said that the ending show for the comedy course for the stand-up comedy course what was terrifying. Um, and yeah, I guess I'm interested. Like, if we perhaps even go back to before, like you had this idea to do it, which is what you originally booked the comedy sketch writing course. But where did that idea come from? Were you watching stand up? Had you seen an open mic? Like what I mean, like for some people, it's just something they would never conceive of what even wanting to do. What was it that sort of first sparked it in your imagination?
Um, well, I mean, when I was quite young, I would have never. I remember watching like Tommy Tiernan, like
Oh
he
yeah,
was Ireland's first
yeah, very
big
funny guy.
stand-up, and he's a bit of a lunatic on stage. And
I've yeah.
I remember watching him thinking, "Oh my God, how the fuck could anyone do that?" You know.
Mm, mm,
But then I was in my 30s when I gave this a go, and I found I stumbled across a Bill Burr
yeah.
special on YouTube
Oh yeah.
called Get Over It. It's only on YouTube. I think it's his
Mm,
best one, to be honest.
mm.
And it was fucking hilarious. Like I loved it. I'd never seen blew my mind this special. I'd
Right.
never seen stand up quite like it. It had such a flow to it, and all the different impressions he done, and all the different voices, and just saying sort of
Yeah.
really true things to hit
Yeah.
himself. So it was sort of a comedy unleashed kind of thing that I'd seen, and I thought was amazing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and I became quite loads of times. Um, and then I yeah, and then I just thought it'd be a cool thing to do.
Oh, brilliant.
Although I was as terrified as anybody, or more, I would say.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, interesting. I mean, so, you sort of saw it, thought of it as a cool thing to do. I mean, I was definitely, seeing it and thinking of it as a cool thing to do. I mean, when I first tried it out in the absence of a comedy course and failed and bombed horribly and miserably, I was just like, okay, that's clearly only. I mean, I thought it was they were just making things up in the spur of the moment, and okay, it's just only these incredible genius level people who can do it, and it was just so scary. I didn't go back to it, but then so I guess you were sort of. But had you done any like performative stuff, being on the stage in front of people before you did this comedy sketch writing course?
No, zero performative stuff.
Right. And
You
and
know,
and so it was just
you-
like, and yeah, you were sort of doing it for the crack, as we might say. You were just like thinking, yeah, I'll do this, see what it's like, have a bit of a
yeah,
laugh because whatever.
and to stretch yourself,
Right.
see what you can do, see what you can't do. Um,
Right. Because you hadn't, as you say, you hadn't tried any other performative stuff, and you were like, this, that would be really cool to do. Let me see if I can do it. Right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, I because I have a performative side to me, so
Hmm.
um, yeah, and I definitely have a joke cracking side to me. So yeah, so I thought, yeah, just be
Yeah, yeah. Well, at the risk of stereotyping, recently we had Chloe Campbell and Keen Darcy on who talked about in the sort of, I mean, I hope I'm not imposing a stereotype on you both, saying I think you might be Irish, and there's a kind of like storytelling, joke telling, aspects to Irish society that it's sort of held in very high regard. Would you agree?
yeah, no, exactly. That is the thing. Like, I think most people, uh, high per capita amount of people are percentage are funny in Ireland.
Mm.
Like, I mean, in my family, I mean, we communicated via slagging, basically. Everything was if you wanted to, if it was get a pint across, it was done mostly in a funny way.
Mm.
Mostly slagging, and the one who gets the best joke wins. That kind of thing when you're all having
Right.
big group get-togethers. Um, yeah, basically the way some people say, oh yeah, they communicate via the medium of dance or whatever. We do it through the slagging, basically. Um, it's a good way. I like it, and it's good. Yeah, so you're brought up in that, and you're like even when you're I remember being a very, very young kid, and I remember seeing adults cracking jokes to each other,
Right.
and then I'd give it a go, but yeah, it didn't really work. I was five, and my stories were too long-winded. So even I remember that was my first comedy lesson. I was like
Right.
five, and I was trying to make a joke to my uncle, and he was like, "Oh Jesus, don't you fucking write a novel about it, will you, fuck's sake?" And I was like, yeah, and it stuck with me forever. I was like, okay, if you get there quick.
Mm.
So
Mm.
brevity was the first one, that I learned. Fucking, you
Brilliant.
lose them fast if you don't, uh, you know,
Get
it
to the point. Absolutely. Yeah, you got
yeah.
to you got to get in there with you got to keep them laughing. Every
Was
once
the
every se
first lesson, yeah,
yeah,
right
once every
there.
7 seconds, ideally, they tell me. I mean, it's a long way away from that. Right. No, that's all coming together in my mind, at least, as sort of a picture of um
It's slagging, yeah.
doing
It's a
that.
lot. It's a sort of it came from a kind of Irish people. Yeah, we're good at I think telling stories and stuff, but
Yeah.
we're good at ripping the piss out of each other.
Yeah, and then I think there's definitely I mean, I think probably everywhere in the world there's a degree of that, but it feels like I think the Irish are particularly good at it. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have an Irish accent and be as funny as Tommy Tiernan or indeed any just the average Irish person. Us English, we're terribly boring and awful. How did we manage to rule the world for so long? Anyway, but yeah, but I guess so. But you were having done the comedy sketch writing. You weren't then okay, right? I'm going to dedicate my life to comedy sketch and go off and try and get as good at that as I possibly could. You were kind of, oh, comedy sketch is a gateway, and stand up's what I sort of want to really be doing. Was that?
Yeah, well, that was it. I came out with that idea because it was less intimidating to do that. And then
Mm,
the woman who ran the course also ran the Thursday night stand up thing on in King's Head.
mm,
Also
mm.
said, "Oh, everyone, Jerry should give stand up a go." Because,
Right.
like I said, I was the class clown
Of that group.
of that group,
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And
and
then yeah, so you had that one first very uncomfortable thing, which I guess like given that you like, but that I mean that's a remarkable. maturity to be able to have an unpleasant bombing 10-minute experience and kind of go, oh, but then to kind of get back up on that horse because certain people like myself would give up for 30 years and maybe never
Oh,
come
did you
back.
give up for 30 years?
Yeah, well, I was 21, I think, when I first tried it, and well, so I was 14. I mean, I then I'd done improv and other things in between, but yeah, from first trying stand up to actually then coming back and doing this Amuse Moose comedy course was about roughly 30 years. It was always there in the back of my mind that like maybe one day I'll overcome the
Yeah, yeah.
fear. But yeah, so you did
You've
that.
done it a lot younger. I mean, yeah,
Oh yes.
I couldn't even have conceived of doing it at that age,
Right, right.
you know.
Yes,
Although
and that.
maybe, I don't
Go
know,
on.
maybe in a different circumstance. I grew up on like a farm in Ireland. You know, that's
Hmm.
such an idea was never. It's just not. It's not like you hear about some guys like you'd follow like guys who Bill Burr or any of these kind of types.
Mm.
They all live in Boston or something, and they're like it's a thing around there. Like it's a thing people do. You know, it's
Yeah.
not a thing people do in the farming community in Wicklow.
No, no, no. Indeed, and I mean it's remarkable. I mean, I've got some friends who are based in Hawaii, where actually we used to live, and in fact, when my kids were born. But that's another story. But so one of my eldest son's contemporaries, who then they stayed in Hawaii, and so he started doing stand up in Hawaii at age 16. And which is just his parents sent hearing that I was doing stand up, they sent me some videos of him doing stand up, and it was not bad. And I
Really?
just wow,
Wow.
what an age to start at,
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you get, I mean, a lot of it, I think, is is comfort on stage, and like
Mm.
the way you ever see, like, you ever notice the way a lot of people who make it doing stand up,
Mm.
they are also teachers, you know. So many comedians who make it are teachers because they are just used to being their teachers are kind of on a stage. Um,
Okay, right. You mean that they're people who've taught adults or children for a living. They actually kind of they're kind of like standing up and talking about, okay,
yeah,
today class we must learn
they're
this.
one person in front of a group of eyes.
Right, right.
And that's essentially what stand up is, except that's jokes, you know.
Yes,
Um,
yes. There's definitely yeah. I think for example in the UK, Romesh Ranganathan famously was a sort of a sixth form teacher for many years before.
yeah, Mickey Flanagan was one as
Right,
well.
right.
Some Aussie guy I seen at the weekend, and
Yeah,
Toxic Comedy was one.
yeah.
He
There's
was very
definitely
good.
some crossover there. I mean, I was a university lecturer, teacher for many years in many different
Yeah.
and
So that
always
yeah.
loved an environment in which I can be the one talking and other people have to listen. Yeah, absolutely love it. That's great. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
but you didn't have any teaching background or anything that
No.
you would
No,
do.
no, but
Oh,
yeah, I guess the point I was getting at was the fact your son is doing it at 16. Like he's getting used to just being in front of people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, I'm just to clarify, it's not my son who's doing it. It's the a friend of my son's. My children do not seem to have any interest in doing stand up, but they're a bit embarrassed. I think that they're well, no, they come around to like, oh, Dad's got this hobby and it's kind of fun for him, and they're kind of, oh, he's quite brave, but they're a bit they're much more introverted than I am. I'm quite extroverted, but my son's friend from Hawaii is very outgoing. I mean, I was thinking, wow, starting at 16, wow, what a trajectory he could be on. But he's gone off to study film in New York and is kind of basically doing acting and directing and all this sort of stuff. And he's sort of having done a bit of stand up, he's like, yeah, all right, fine, I'm going to try something else. So it's everybody's lives are on different sorts of trajectories, but certainly the way I'm enjoying stand up at the moment, I kind of wish. Part of me wishes that I had started doing it and doing it properly much earlier. Although looking at my life, I could have easily ended up dying of alcohol poisoning if I'd been on that particular trajectory. But yeah, but
Yeah, I
I
think that's what it is. I think you do have to like if you're like if you really wanna, get on get on fucking T V and stuff. I think early is good. Early and like 10 good hard years of
Yeah.
going for it. And then if it works, it works. The thing is, if it if it does, it's one of those things where you have to burn the boats. If I'm going to
Mm.
make it this or nothing.
Right. Right.
It's one of those pursuits, really. I think.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's like, the way up, seems to perhaps maybe still. I don't know if the social media is changing that, but you've got to do a lot of traveling and hard, you know, yards to kind of, you've got to sort of, difficult to have like connections. And in your early 20s, if you don't have a family, you don't have a particular job, you can potentially, I mean, of course, then it's like, funding and money and all this other, you can go all in, and that's maybe your body can cope with the abuse that you will throw at it by being on the road. But I'm keen to take us back to, yeah, that first. I mean, it's interesting. It's weird because this is the, other people have had a kind of a clear first gig, and but you've got this kind of like first random gig, and then this other one. I mean, you were saying that the ending night of the comedy stand-up course, that was still sort of terrifying going up to it. I mean,
Oh yeah, man. I was thinking that when they were calling my name, I was terrified most of them those times. I
yeah,
actually thought like the set would go all right. Um, but I was just terrified of forgetting the lines.
right.
And that was the case for me for the whole um first, I don't know, year of doing it or whatever. First few months or whatever of doing that. I was always just
Mhm.
terrified of forgetting lines, more so than anything. And then if you're terrified of something like that, you end up practicing it too much, and then you
Right.
know it. Then if you over practice it to a silly degree, you're
Mm.
basically telling your subconscious that you don't think you can remember this. Is
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
theory on it.
Y-
And I done that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah, and
was a bit.
oh,
And
gone.
then when my name was being called up, I was like, just before my name was being called up, there was a voice in my head saying, "It's not too late. You can just run out of here now. You can just,
Right.
you've given it a good go. You've done the course. What more do you want?" um, and then the name was called up, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus!" And I went up, and then I did forget some lines, and it was the gig went well, but it was like it was a real home crowd. That was.
Right. So that was a much more rewarding experience than that first kind of random one, yeah. So you
Yeah.
effectively you had a good gig, and that, it sounds from the first experience that even if it hadn't gone that well, you would have still soldiered on. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm quite tough in that way.
Mm,
Um, I
mm.
remember I done the third gig. Then I went down to the Lions Den,
Oh yeah.
and that was my third one. I done the same
Mm.
set. I was thinking I was just going to be a fucking superstar straight off the bat here, and I done this third set, and there was one sort of drunk lady. I think she was drunk, but she laughed hysterically the whole way through my set, and then but the rest of the crowd were dead silent. So it was quite weird.
Yes, no, we've heard. I've
She
never.
loved me. I was there. "Gee, I just need like a million of you dotted throughout the country, and it's sorted."
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is, well, that seems to be half the trick, really, is it finding those people who, you really tickle and getting all of them sort of connect. I mean, this is what sort of I think Stuart Lee has, what he actively talks about having managed is, and realized that through social media, so what have you, is if you can get like 10,000 people who are the people who particularly, like your particular sense of humor, then that's your kind of, you don't have to necessarily please all of the gatekeepers in comedy and get on, I mean, obviously he started with a television show, that's kind of a bit of a bit of a cheat, really. But like if you can find that audience, and then, but that's what people talk about, isn't it? Then playing to rooms of people who already like you is suddenly a different ball game.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot easier. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I've never been to the Lions Den. I mean, we've had Oggy on the podcast, who I think actually was always a fan of that, and now runs Lions Den. Yeah, and then so, following that, like you were hooked, and it was then regular gigging for you from then on out.
No, yeah. So like that was pre-COVID, right? So and
Um,
and then I done it for a few months, and I done some good gigs, some bad gigs, some like
mhm.
middle gigs or whatever. Um, And but then COVID hit, and
Mm,
so I didn't fancy doing the whole Zoom thing, so I
mm.
stopped. So I'd done about 6 months of it, and then I stopped, and then I didn't pick it back up again until 4 years. I mean, of what, like the middle of this time last year, about year and a half ago or something, I picked it back up again.
Okay, 18 months ago. Right.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Good show. And now how frequently are you gigging?
It varies,
Mm.
I was doing my peak. I was doing two or three, but now the last couple of months a bit less so,
Mm, mm, mm.
because I'm quite busy. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's but I guess like how so that was quite a big, you know,
Gap.
several year gap. But are you feeling now you want to stay on this wagon or do you think you'll fall off it again?
No, I think no. I want to keep it alive. I think it's something I can do. I can
Mm,
I get to you know what it is. I think like if you think you're gonna make it or something,
mm,
you really have to go absolute like balls deep into it. I
mm,
just haven't got that kind of bandwidth in my life. However, I
mm,
could do it to a decent level where I get like a nice level at
mm,
stand up and run my own gig kind of thing. And,
mm.
do it in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's I mean, well, I mean, I've been impressed with, I think your writing, and I think you've got a very strong, stage persona that I think you're up there and you're having fun, and that helps everybody have fun. And it's strange that whole kind of going for it, making it one's life. I mean, I think that's a dangerous thing in any walk of life, in that you're kind of. I don't mean you personally. I mean that one can end up projecting enjoyment into the future, right? And you end up saying, right, oh yes, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna like, and then sort of, they have a montage and the person working out, doing reps and whatever, Rocky, running up and down stairs or whatever it happens to be, and then kind of like you're doing it with this sort of intensity where can you actually even enjoy the process? And in some ways, what's the point in doing any of it unless you're actually enjoying it? So sort of approaching it as can I find a sustainable way to do this thing that I enjoy doing and carry on doing it and get good at it? Yeah, it's a funny thing that I find about stand up is that there's a thrill doing it, but doing it there's then this kind of like desire to get better. I don't know if you find that as is one of the attractions of doing it more is the idea that, oh yeah, I want to do more because I want to have that thrill, but I also, if I do more, then I'll get better and I'll get even higher intensity of thrills. Maybe it's just an addiction. I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I think so. Then you want to get to like better rooms and maybe less acts, better rooms, that kind of thing. And I think that's all quite reasonable. Like although if you're prepared like to give it, the full beans 2 or 3 times a night, every night
Mm,
for 10 years or a few years until you get to like to, um, comedy store level or something, and then it's a different thing, right?
yeah.
But yeah, but if you have, yeah, but I think if you're to get to that master level of whatever master level you have in you, anything that's difficult, I think you do have to give that absolute um,
Well, you got to put in the
total commitment. I think
right,
has
right.
to be everything. Like I'm quite busy, for example, um, and therefore don't have a lot of. I think if you're to write a lot of jokes, I think you have to spend a lot of time around just pondering, thinking, just doing nothing. I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the jokes flow from that kind of thing better than like. So I think it's one of those things where you have to total commitment, and you can't be like doing lots of high career things. I think
Yeah, yeah. I think there's definitely an extent to which and whether it's comedy or something else, it's like the 10,000 hours
Mm.
need to go in somehow to get you at the level. I mean, but I think it's almost though. I wonder as well, like it's maybe a bit like enlightenment. I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff about enlightenment, which is sort of saying that thinking that it's an achievement that you can do in the future is actually what prevents you becoming enlightened, and that actually, if one can just sort of stop and realize that you're already enlightened and it's just covered up with too much thinking, um, I have I think there is
I
a
guess
lot.
no, that's with enlightenment, and that's the human condition. I know I'm big into Buddhist stuff as well, and
Mm, mm,
I've various different ways of saying the same thing as what you have.
mm, mm. But I
But
also,
however, I
oh,
think,
go on.
and while that's probably true, I think you still have to put in the hours. I think in that.
Yeah, I think there is. Although I wonder, like, and this is listening to a lot of other successful comedians.
Hmm.
There may be no shortcut, but there's something about I was sort of thinking in response to what you said about you've got to spend all this time pondering. Um, and that certainly. I mean, I've got this process at the moment where I try and write 10 jokes a day, and I've sort of been doing that for like 9 months, and I think it's unlocking aspects of things
Ah,
in
yeah,
my
no, that's a good discipline as well. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
that works.
and
But
well,
I think it's one of those things, or my impression of it is, if you're doing, I think, and I've went through phases of it where you have to, I think, live your whole life with you're always cracking jokes, you're always making jokes all the time. It's
mm,
conversations within reason. You're always trying to be funny. You're looking at YouTube videos. You're thinking, oh, that's a good angle, good technique.
mm,
Do that. You do it all the time. You do it all the time,
mm.
and it's a bit like a guy who's good at running. He's good at running because he does it every day. Every day.
Yeah,
Comedian
yes, yes.
is good because he tries to get actively get funnier every day in all his time, basically.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and I think there's also there's a trap there that like for a person trying to get better at running, if they become obsessed with their running to the exclusion of all else, they can end up driving themselves into the ground, and
Yes, yeah, no, that's also true. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I guess that kind of thing with balance, I suppose.
Yeah, but I guess the thing I'm reaching towards is something that I feel like that part of I often say how true this is, but like I have this idea that the key thing for the person who's being successful on stage is that they are not they have no fear in them, and then there's at least two ways to achieve that situation. And one is to really not give a fuck. Right? If you really just don't care, and this is and Will Farrell, who from like movies and stuff, he like I've heard him talked about as, and he just doesn't seem to care if it goes badly. And that gives him this sort of assuredness that just, it seems to allow him to be kind of like naturally funny in so many different situations. And then the other way is that if you've got like perfectly honed jokes that you've done hundreds and thousands of times, and you're just like, yeah, and you don't even have to think about, joke, 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 joke. It's just there and it's just available. And so as a result of feeling so secure in your material, you can also show absolutely no fear. But it's sort of, yeah, I wonder, or maybe I'm just looking for a cheat code, is that a bit like enlightenment, if I could kind of unlock that total lack of fear, I could just be playing in the space of ideas. I mean, I have this feeling that
You don't strike me as particularly full of much fear on stage.
that thanks. No, and I think people do say that. I do come across as very confident on stage, and I think I have. Um, Yeah, and but there's definitely. I mean, what I sense in myself is I really want to do well, and
Mm.
when I'm doing what I'm doing, there's definitely a certain level of anxiety and that over the last 4 years, that's become less and less of an issue, and I've done more and more experimental stuff, and I do like I don't know if you know my virtual reality comedy Booby Trap, where I take 5 thoughts from a day and I just riff on these 5 different topics.
Yeah, you seem
And
like a riffer. Yeah, me.
I mean, I definitely I feel like that's the I know a lot of people talk about polishing material, and I can see the huge value in doing that. And who are these stupid improv people? But there is a kind of a freedom that I find sometimes where I'm just if I can be totally relaxed, like sometimes on a Wednesday, I will have gone swimming and I'll be very tired and I'll do this online virtual reality gig and I will just be playing in the space of ideas and I will have forgotten to have any fear at all. And I'm just, and that there's something about that state that's very attractive. And I'm kind of like, yeah, is there some just way I can sort of like switch in my brain, a bit like enlightenment, to say, right, I will just be in that state permanently. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I'm going off on one,
Yeah,
and
I
go
think
on.
no, I think what it is is like if you're with your friends and you're having a couple of beers and you just get into the zone of cracking
Mm,
jokes and doing
mm-hmm,
whatever
mm-hmm.
um thing, isn't it? It's whatever you have when you're on form there is what you'll have on stage, really.
Right, right. Yeah,
I
no, I
think
think go on.
yeah, I think that's what so if you can get to that level of having fun and trying out different jokes. Obviously your friends are a home crowd and you know make them
Yeah.
laugh and you're hanging out with them and they
Mm,
have a similar sense of humor to you and everything. So they're a bit like a big comedian performing to their own crowd,
right,
because
right.
it's your friends in a
Mm,
lot of cases. But I think that's about the I've I'm kind of like I'm not that nervous these days, especially if I'm doing like MC or something.
mm,
I'm kind of close to that, like doing what I would be if I was hanging out with my friends, I suppose.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
I think
quite
that
relaxed. I'm not that relaxed, but I mean a bit relaxed and relaxed enough to mess about and have fun. I think anyway.
yeah, and I think that as we often see each other in Cuts comedy, and I think when it's a room that you're regularly in, and you know a lot of the people who are in there because they're comedians you've seen before, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it does become easier and easier. And I think that I saw my friend Imran Yusuf performing emceeing for the Comedy Store recently, and yeah, I mean I think it's one of those jobs that's interesting because I think he was up there and being very relaxed, and that's kind of the trick, and I think that's the difficulty, in kind of like going up the ranks and getting into comedy store level or beating these gong shows, is that you need to go into these kind of like high pressure situations, and you need to cope with the high pressure by being even more relaxed than usual. You know what I mean? Which is of course tricky because in a high pressure situation, the last thing that you would normally do is relax.
Yeah, that is true. But I think the MC part is good for getting that feeling.
Yeah,
I think that you don't have to have all the time a joke, just with talking to people.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, but if you're in this place, it comes. You do need a couple, even like big fucking comedian. They need a couple of certain kind of jokes that they can hang off, then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can
yeah.
play around. They can play around in between them, you know. Some people are more riffy than others,
Yeah.
like so. Yeah, I know from meetings that I follow, whatever, and I'm a very riffy type people.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
They
yeah,
all say like, oh yeah, I need a couple of things I can swing back to, just in case for a little safety.
yeah, yeah. And I think for the people who've been doing it 10 and 20 years and so on, they've also got like they've gone through stages and have done very polished sets and then they've got kind of like not just one or two, but they've got a whole they've got what's the word, an armory of jokes for situations that they know so well they can just sort of pull out of their hat to kind of like but they can do it in such a way that it seems unprepared, and that's half the fun for everybody. No, it's great stuff.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was going to move us on to our second question, which is technology affecting your life and your comedy at all? And just my usual provisos, which are like technology could be pen and paper, it could be the latest AI model, it could be a home robot, anything at all. And of course, this is all a big smokescreen. I'm really interested about your comedy process. How do you come up with your ideas? Is technology involved? How do you live your life? Is technology involved there, or should it be removed? Is it all stone tablets for you? How is it all working?
Um, no, like technology doesn't really come into like I don't use AI or anything if I'm coming up for jokes. I get most of my joke ideas just from chatting with friends, or I get
Hmm.
a few of them on stage.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and then some writing. But yeah, but mostly that. And I don't really. And this is a weakness of mine. I should be. Because I think AI could be useful for developing lists. You know, a lot of comedy
Hmm.
or have a structure, and a structure often involves lists, tags,
Hmm.
basically on a joke,
Hmm.
on an initial long joke, and then you tag it all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, yeah, AI, yeah, AI could be useful for that kind of thing. But yeah, but maybe it's to your point. I think it's right. Yeah, I haven't used technology. The only technology I've used for freaking stand up is maybe gig.
Oh, sorry, you said that the only technology you used for stand up was what? Sorry.
Gig gag, you know that
Gig
app?
gag. Oh, yeah, right. Yes, indeed. Gig gag, which I don't know. Yeah, we've actually mentioned on the show before, is Dave Lynch's, or Dave
Yes,
Lynch
correct. Yeah, yeah,
Cumberpatch, as
yeah.
he's now called, his creation that allows comedians to book in. Um, yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely filling a need. Yeah, it would be. I wish we could raise like some £8 billion or whatever, and build a startup to kind of like make an all singing, all dancing version of something like that. But yeah, right. And did you not record your sets?
Oh no, I do record. Yeah, and I do. I don't. And I do listen. I mean, I don't watch them back religiously. It's a bit of a pain, isn't it? Watching it.
Well, you say that. I mean, it really is. I make a joke about it on stage, but it is a highlight of my evening, every evening, to watch myself back. I really am a huge. I
You
mean,
do like it?
I mean, one, I
You
think it's
weren't joking there. You were being true.
I'm completely serious. I mean, and it's not like I'm watching myself and saying, "God, how handsome and how funny this guy is." It so much as I mean, no, I'm really not thinking that. But it's I think it's one for the learning. Like I think it's you just sort of I often find myself during the gig feeling like, oh, how did that really kind of go? Um, was that okay? Well, and even I don't necessarily remember everything that I said because I'm doing a lot of riffing. So like for the, we were gigging with me on Thursday, and I mean, I was trying a lot of like new material. And then I watched it back and I was kind of like, oh, okay, there was a few more laughs than I thought. So it kind of brought my mood up watching it back, and then also like, oh yeah, there's that idea, and that idea reminds me of the ideas, and then I'm just there's some at some very low level, I'm just sort of fascinated by seeing a moving image of myself, like in a kind of, it's just I get captivated again, not thinking this guy's fantastically good looking or this guy's funny. It's just like, wow, that's me. Look, that's a me. That's me doing that thing. Wow, that's just really strange. There's a kind of it tickles some sort of strange weirdness bone inside me, and I never miss it. And that's usually I'm never more depressed than when my recording for the evening has failed.
What do you mean failed? As in like, oh,
Yeah, just I forgot to press play, or
oh, right.
like that's right, not play. Yeah, I forgot to press record, or for whatever reason,
Yeah.
So I usually have certainly my own gigs that I run, I have multiple backups, and even at somewhere like Cuts, I'll be videoing myself, but I'll have a audio recording going in the background just in case the first one fails.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I've had a couple of those, especially an MC, and because then you go up on stage and you stumble upon something that's quite works quite well, and then you see if you can produce that in a more repetitive way in an actual set. And
Yeah.
sometimes I've actually record.
Yeah, and it's easy, particularly if you're emceeing and you're coming on and off. It's easy to forget to record
You're
yourself, and then
distracted, yeah, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you're kind of like, oh yeah, that was a really interesting idea. What was it that I actually said? And I mean, it's
How did I say it? Yeah,
yeah,
what
yeah.
was the? Because it's very subtle what makes things work and what doesn't.
Yes, and I'm sure you have the experience, like many others, is that you'll do something one time and it gets a big laugh, and then you'll try it again and it doesn't, and then you're like, now why was that? Is that because I said it differently this time, or is that because the order that it was in was different with other things, or is this because now it's a different room with different people and so on, and that whole kind of weird process of trying to work out which the ones that actually, have legs, and but that's I think partly why watching it back is
Yeah, yeah. No, I've found that useful. I remember I'd done this joke about what was it? It was, and I done this. This was done off the cuff, I think, and it was just about I don't know. The punchline of it was as if there was a cage dog, right, in a
Oh yeah.
pound or something. I don't remember what the joke was. But when I done it, I done it as if like I was looking at this cage dog was on the stage, like,
Right.
and that became that was the punchline of the thing that I done off the cuff. Um, and then I tried to do it again, and it was like everyone was like looking at me like, "What?
Mhm.
What is?" And then I was like, "Oh, so why didn't work? That was funny. I do remember it being funny, but it was but it was something as subtle as um." I pointed to it or something at the time when I done it off the cuff, and then I gave a
Mm.
little glance over that way, and then I done the thing where I really looked at it
Hmm.
and thought and gave the whatever words I said to it, and that's what I mean. It's subtle little things
Yeah.
that you do that make it work or not, especially if you're doing sort of acting.
Yeah, acting things out, or I mean, there's definitely an extent to which you're sort of setting up, you're painting a scene
Yeah, a
in
picture. Yeah,
the people's minds, and sometimes you'll miss certain things, and that they just won't necessarily understand. They won't be able to connect the dots because you haven't provided, or conversely, that you provided too much, as you were saying, from when you were
yeah,
five.
yeah. You got to
Yeah,
leave a bit of. They have to figure something out, so you can't give them too much. You have to
yeah,
leave enough breadcrumbs at the same time so that they get there. But so
yeah, yeah.
it's a balance.
It's all a balance, isn't it? It's all a balance. Yeah, and then so so you're using the gig gag, but any of the social media stuff. Are you big on TikTok or Snapchat or any of
No,
those?
I'm not, but I probably should give that stuff a go. See, do some videos and see how they go.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I'm a bit, uh, I think a bit actory in what I can do. Like I can do um, voices and impressions and things. Um, so that kind of stuff could be so I could that kind of stuff would lend itself strongly to that kind of doing little skits on YouTube. I should, and that's probably a thing I should do. I think I should give it a go. It's a bit of it takes some balls to do it as well. It's another level of it's like coming out,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's. I mean, yeah, I feel like there are these layers, which I was mentioning maybe to Freddie the other week, but I don't know if this is really true. I mean, I have over the last year I've cut up a lot of my stuff from just general gigs and stuck little clips of that onto TikTok, and I sort of in my mind TikTok feels like a bit of a dumping ground. I haven't really been holding a very high bar for quality there because I'm not really sure who's watching particularly. Um, and I mean, certainly there are people I'm connected to, and there's some comedians I know and some friends and what have you. Um, but it's been very uneven in terms of how widely that sort of the clips get distributed, and then sometimes I get like a couple of dozen likes, and other times none at all, and I don't really understand the difference. But like ones that have got done better there, I'll put those on Instagram. And Instagram, I feel like is more like a bit visible, and I haven't really put. I put a little bit of sketch comedy on YouTube, but it would feel to me like if I was going and putting it on YouTube, that would be like coming out. So I sort of in my mind, I've artificially created this perhaps non-existent layers from like TikTok is like the dungeon, and Instagram's kind of like like the courtyard, and then YouTube is like showing to the king, which is it has no basis in reality really. But
I think the Instagram one is proper. Whereas like so if you're continue with the coming out analogy, um, you know, TikTok is probably like going down to Mexico to meet a red boy.
it does sort of feel a little bit like that, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah. I
Whereas
mean,
Instagram is you're walking around your local Texas town with your boyfriend.
right, right, right.
I think so. I think that's right.
Yeah, maybe not a million miles away from those things, but yeah, I mean, and I would have loved to have like gone viral or what have you, but nothing of the sort. I mean, I'm a bit too old and cold really for that, perhaps, or just not funny enough. But yeah,
I
for
think
various people.
some people do it. But yeah, some people do it, and I think the like obviously they have to be funny, but they do little things on but I think it's doing it regularly is the
Yeah, yeah, it's doing regularly, and I think well, this is, I mean, as I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast, talking to Vinny Shu about Reese Kids, who started about the same time as possibly both of us. Actually, I think Vinny had been going well, all of us, everybody sort of having to break for COVID or what have you. But I think he's now got over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and he's done very well from at least from Vinny's perspective on like making kind of it's not just clips of him doing stand up. It's like little things that he's put together. They're almost like sort of like him talking into the camera about a thing, which is then related to a bit that he does on stage and so on. And like it's kind of, I mean, that's the thing is you were mentioning about like comedy sketches and skits and so on, because I kind of like, I don't, I mean, we ended up doing this sort of Lord of the Rings comedy sketch, but it was sort of like it took a lot of hours and a lot of organization and all this sort of setup. And one of the things I love about stand up is that kind of like I can have an idea and I can go and try it out immediately that evening. But that still takes up time. And then it's kind of like, right, well, maybe I've got time to just sort of clip a bit out of that. But the idea of like making time to write something that with the intention that it will be funny in a kind of scripted sort of way. Do you know what I mean? That sort of feels like I don't know that I have really time to. Maybe I should watch more of what Reese Kids
I think
is doing.
you know what I find like some bacon, and sometimes I send voice notes to whoever and they're totally out of the subconscious, those things. I don't prep them or anything.
Hmm.
And you do get some rambly, random, funny stuff like that. And I think you could, and I think I think, and some of the people I watch on YouTube, on Instagram and stuff, they seem a bit like they're doing, they're going off the cuff a little bit,
Right, right. Yeah, it's because I sort of feel like, if I mean, people have done, they do like sort of little ranty things where they sort of say a thing and they put themselves there. I mean, I kind of what I'm generally trying to do is get a clip of myself that is actually that got a laugh, so that it plays and then somebody who's listened to it would hear the laugh. It feels sort of particularly exposed is if you're like well, for example, I've been kind of a bit enraged by these like, a lot of the non-dairy milk cartons. They changed from like a screw cap to this kind of like pop clip thing that
Mm-hmm.
just seems to when I was I don't know why it had to change. The little screw cap with the thing that pulled out from underneath was totally fine. That was all working. And then they were like, no, no, we have this new thing. And now when I open it, basically I get a little spurt of milk, like someone's come on my top, when I do it. And it doesn't close up. And it's just created a whole lot. I mean, like, now after a
Life
year
is
of it, what
ruined.
have you, I mean, I've kind of got to the point where I can like open them slowly enough, pointing in the direction of, the sink or what have you, that I'm generally not making such a mess that I was. But it's just, so, I could do a kind of a rant about that, but it's sort of, like to record me doing the, do you know what I mean? To record me doing the rant and then put that like, not in front of an audience seems quite strange, really. Like, and then see how many likes would that get? That feels kind of, I guess that's the kind of thing some people are doing, isn't it? I don't know.
Exactly the thing people are doing. Um, yeah, and they do it with silly, and it's a talent in itself. The silly little innocuous things,
Right.
like little sets about like life from your dog's perspective or something. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yes.
doing pretending you're the dog. I've seen those. They can be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, maybe I should give that a try. I mean, it's an interesting one because I guess what I feel like would be the challenge is having recorded one, I would then watch it back and I'd be thinking, do I need to do that again from a different? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think having gone up and done stuff on the stage, you in front of an audience, you can't really reshoot it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you end up doing it at a different club on a different night or what have you. But there's kind of on a given day, it's like I've got this clip of something, and this is either worth sending out or not worth sending out. And actually, I mean, either way, I tend to send them out because I'm like, fuck, I've done the clipping of it. I've got to send something out, so let's just do this, which is probably not to my credit. But yeah, yeah, that kind of like make it. I guess that feels like another level of kind of bravery is just like, okay, I'm gonna have a rant about this thing, one take, send it out. Do you know what I mean? Is that maybe?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. Maybe not one take, but like one take could be the you give a couple of goes just off the cuff, and then you maybe change it and edit it. And,
Add a filter. Yeah. Get a
yeah,
younger,
you know,
get a younger,
maybe,
better looking actor to come in and play me.
maybe,
But
yeah, maybe, or maybe ask a couple of friends if it's.
that right, that's the thing. Yeah, maybe like send yeah, because I guess that's what you can do on TikTok is just you can post stuff and just make it available for friends. And then if like, okay, well, this is it's an education, Jerry. You're giving me all sorts of exciting ideas.
I
But
have to try these myself.
yeah, totally, totally. Oh, and
This is the
well,
kind
I
of
think
it's bravery, like you said. There's a
yeah,
bravery to it.
right. Well, and I think I mean, yeah, I think yeah, you've got a kind of there's a sort of like you've got the lovely Irish accent, which we're all suckers for, and there's a kind of yeah, I think you'd be very good at this. Let's move on to our next question, which is like the people that have had the biggest impact on your life and comedy. I mean, you mentioned already Tommy Tiernan, hysterical, Bill Burr, hysterical. This is a chance to mention, any other comedian influences, but also, people like the man with no surname, Brian, who ran your comedy stand-up course, or the uncle who told you when you were 5 that your stories were too long. Who's had the biggest impact on your life and comedy?
Um, who? I think it's just like I was saying earlier, just growing up in an Irish community, basically,
Mm,
where
hmm
just everybody fucking tries to be funny.
hmm
Everybody, like in my local community,
hmm
was always on meeting. I mean, nearly to a man, and everyone was fucking having a go. They weren't on stage, but they're on a live stage. They were on it, and they were
Right.
all,
Yeah.
and everyone was trying to be entertaining
hmm
through the medium of slagging or just being funny or whatever. But it was, yeah, I think, but as I was growing up, that was definitely
Yeah.
where
They
I'm.
said that it takes a village to raise a child, and you had a village of comedians. Just
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of funny people around where I grew up. Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of inbreeding, but a lot of funniness.
Ah.
Maybe the two are connected. I don't know, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because
if you're inbred, you
go
may
on.
as well just go for it.
Well, what have you got to lose, really,
Yeah,
apart from your genetic
a
heritage?
lot of damage has already been done before.
Yeah,
So,
how much worse can it get? Yeah, I think about it, just I mean, I grew up in an English family, not necessarily a particularly typical one. I think we were, a little bit eccentric in some ways. Like my you know, how would I say? Yeah, like I think a lot of the perhaps more typical English family might be Church of England, or I mean, that's becoming less and less common, but or have sort of more religious things. My father was of a sort of his grandfather was Jewish, but he'd given up the faith and married a woman an English woman who didn't wasn't particularly religious or was almost quite anti-religious, and so my mother and father didn't really have any religious sensibilities, and they were sort of almost kind of hippies. Like my mother was at Greenham Common. I don't know if you heard of that. It's like the women protesting about the sighting of nuclear missiles. They were sort of members of CND and that sort of stuff back in the
okay,
day. I'll probably be on a watch list now, but I probably always was. But yeah, so it's kind of like
another watch list.
how many can I get on? It's who watches the watch lists? No, but the
You're a triple threat.
I think my father, he definitely had a sense of humor. Would like to make jokes, but it's interesting you mentioned about the slagging because like that's almost none of that. Like in my family and even in my extended family, there's kind of no almost none of the slagging. I think everybody enjoys a joke, but yeah, it's kind of
Joshing, gentle
yeah,
joshing.
it tends to be yeah. I don't yeah. I'm
No,
just
it's not. It's not the same in England. I mean, maybe in the north a bit,
yeah yeah.
but definitely not down south and middle
No.
class. It's definitely a bit more, lady chatterly upstairs, downstairs. It's a bit
Yes, yes. There's a bit
more.
more
It's a
kind
bit
of
more
like
contained. You know what I mean?
Yes, and serious. A lot of conversations quite serious. How is work going? Yeah, well, it's like, well, I'm not sure. It's been a bit stressful recently, and maybe you need to take a week off. Yeah, oh, fair enough. I mean, and I guess the reaction would be like, well, was it working hard? Are you hardly working? I mean, there's that sort of joshing is I think absent from a lot of the families that I know and sort of grew up with. But that they'd like individual jokes and as kids and so on. But yeah, well, we're learning a lot more about me than you necessarily. I mean, I'm sort of jealous of the whole like being Irish. It seems great fun. Obviously, apologies for all of the awful things that we as the English have done to
Oh, don't yeah,
over the years. What can you do? It's not my fault, isn't it?
we got our freedom. It's all
Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, well, I'm glad you've forgiven us all. But yeah, if that's yeah, I mean, if we don't want to riff, I mean, I just say I was listening to Tommy Tiernan's album recently, and also Bill Burr's, and they're both hysterical people who I am deeply envious and enjoy their what they've given to the world. Shall we move on then to drugs and how they affect your perception of reality? And as I usually say, be safe out there, kids. Don't just because Jerry's enjoying stuff doesn't mean that you can too. But more importantly, than about well, not necessarily importantly, but when I say drugs, I refer to substances of any kind, which could be, like avocados or, like ADHD
right.
medication or, a Coke or Pepsi or, any is there, are you highly dependent on coffee to get through your day or what is it that affects how you see the world?
Am I? Yeah, no, I do like a good strong black coffee in the morning. I'm very prescriptive about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, fine. A cafetiere coffee. I think that's a rugged, good coffee.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I
Yeah.
might
No,
go by on the trail or something.
hmm
Yeah, I have five scoops of very particular type of coffee.
5 scoops. Right. Okay.
Mm, strong, first one. I only have one. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah. Well, let me see the drugs. Yeah, I mean, I just yeah, if you have a little smoke every couple of weeks, yeah, I think that's you see the world in a different way. Sometimes a bit kind of a is quite it has a negative tilt to it, but
Hmm.
yeah, but I think you see things a lot more creatively and a lot more um, if a little bit negatively,
Hmm.
you do see a different angle on things. I think because and particularly because you just like to sit back and just think about things. Now,
Right.
when you're in your normal, that's what it makes me do anyway.
Hmm.
I think when
Hmm.
you're in your normal life, you're just going, you tend to get into this thing of just getting things done all the time,
Right. Working through lists. Yeah.
clocks ticking, like getting the
Hmm.
done. I get that, oh, I got that done. I got this done. I got that.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're on, if you have a little poke of something, of an avocado, for example,
Avocados,
uh,
indeed.
you have no interest in getting things done, and you want to just think about things.
Mm,
I think it's quite a useful and good thing to do.
right,
I
right.
don't think I don't think I have got many jokes. I suppose it's that classic thing where you think you're a genius when you're on it, but then when you look back and you think, what the fuck? You're
Yeah,
not.
no,
This
Sam
makes
Adamson
no
was saying
sense.
similar thing last week. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, and but I do believe it. Yeah, that every week is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it sounds like I mean the thing that I've struggled with alcohol or nicotine or even dope in the past is like I end up becoming I do a bit of it and like it and then I do too much of it and I've found in recent years abstaining from these things generally is sort of like just because I've got a bit of an addictive personality.
Right.
But it sounds like I mean you're saying like one coffee a day, this kind of maybe we a couple of once every couple of weeks or whatever. And then about alcohol, you don't struggle with overusing one substance or another. You manage to find a good balance generally.
Yeah, with food and drinking and any kind of yeah, that's whatever. Yeah, like I don't have any. Yeah, I'm quite good, lucky, I guess, in that way, in that I don't have to deal with. Yeah, I'm not addictive.
Yeah. Oh, good. Glad to hear it. And
Um,
yeah.
I can become addictive with doing things.
Mm.
Like getting into. I can get quite into things.
Hmm. Hmm.
But not substances. No.
No. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear it because I mean, some of us do struggle. But yeah, I mean, do you? We might slide this towards the final question. Is like, do you feel that there are some of these substances that can reveal, a different thing of is reality not as solid as it seems? Is there something else going on, like we're living in a simulation, or this is dreams in the minds of God, or do does what does it all mean? This life, the universe, and everything. How does
Yeah,
it
no,
all?
I often think that. Yeah. What does, I mean, I'm a I'm kind of, I don't know, I lean towards the Buddhist angle
Oh
of
yeah.
all these things. You just got to be, you just got to be present, you just got, and
Okay.
like you say, yeah, I think you mentioned it in relation to something else earlier.
Yeah.
You mentioned it in relation to making it, whatever.
Mhm.
But in terms of being happy and content, I think all that is in you already. I think, but you just have to let it happen. I think, you know.
Right. Yeah, just relax and go with the flow, sort of float in the river
Well, I
of
think you
life.
might maybe there's some work involved. You got to meditate and stuff like that, but you got to
Mm,
practice it because it's the yeah. I think this the mind that is definitely on a bit of a virus in many ways. Or
right.
I think it's a thing. I think, isn't it? Like nature doesn't care whether you're happy or not. It cares whether you reproduce successfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah.
thing. You're not necessarily. I think happiness is in you, but it's not necessarily the human way. You
No.
know, like,
No.
I mean, you could, I'm a big fan of, was it Eckhart Tolle? Is that his name? Eckhart
Yes.
Tolle, people
Yes,
say.
he is. I often mention him. Yes.
I'm a big fan of I know I basically subscribe to that kind of idea. But then you could count on maybe one hand the amount of human beings who live totally in the entirety of the human race.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And there's a book recommended by Eckhart Tolle, which is called, I think, The Fall by, is it Stephen Wright? Not the comedian, but a different guy. Which is and actually, documenting. It's the number of people who seem to be in this kind of enlightened state is maybe more than we might think. Like he does an analysis of a lot of different figures, historical figures. I think people like Walt Whitman and so on, and produces this, kind of makes an argument to say actually there's a fair number of these people. I mean,
Ah, you really think so? Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, no, I mean, not certainly not a majority, but it's like maybe like something like 1 in 10,000 or something like, I don't know if I'm over egging that, but more than often when we think of like the Buddha and Jesus and Eckhart Tolle and so on, they seem like okay, this is like maybe a handful in the whole of all of humanity's existence, but there's a suggestion that it might be
He's out
more.
there monetizing pretty hard, though, Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the thing is, once you get into that state, you sort of stop worrying about money, really. So it's kind of it then comes to you.
It doesn't look like he's not worried about
Oh, Eckhart Tolle, or
it.
yeah, no, well, certainly there's a framework around him that's generating money. Although there's certainly from his the way he talks about it. I mean, I think he was very poor for a very long time. There does
Hmm.
seem to be yeah, and that I've certainly I think it is perhaps quite expensive to go on these retreats where you can listen to him speak. But and
I
I've
don't
certainly
think there's many homeless guys there.
no, 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 indeed. Which is ironic given that Eckhart Tolle was originally homeless himself for many years. But
Yeah, he's in the system now. He's in the system, but
mm,
nevertheless, his message was a good one. I think. But that's interesting. What did you say? It was The Fall by
yeah, The
Stephen
Fall
Wright.
by Stephen Wright. We can potentially put it in the show notes. I think I lent it to my son. Yeah, and then yeah, I'm constantly reading these sorts of books about these kinds of things. I mean, it's interesting what you were saying there before about nature not really caring whether we're happy. I mean, it reminds me of there's a really interesting guy out of America. This is probably it's not in my. This is probably the Santa Fe Complexity Institute. Or was it? Anyway, but he's done this study with like showing how like in computer code, like just the evolution of complexity and like the development of self-organizing systems. And then there's something like fundamentally baked into the nature of the universe, or even the nature of conceptual reality, like statistically, things that recreate copies of themselves will tend to be sticking around more. So this is a bit of a tangent, but like if we think of substances, like we think like granite, right, is a hard rock and it sticks around. Right. So you think, well, that's going to stick around more than some water that's going to get boiled off or what have you. But actually, like ourselves, DNA reproducing machines or whatever they happen to be, anything that kind of basically takes raw resources and turns it into more copies of themselves. Over time, the granite will get eroded down and end up being just little particles. But the things that reproduce themselves and create more of themselves, there will be more of them going forward. And so I think there's absolutely an extent in which the statistics of the universe don't particularly care about whether any one individual is happy or not. It's all, the reason for things to exist, more of one thing rather than another is about how effective they are replicating themselves, and that's the same applies to living things as well as also like mind ideas. So like Catholicism or like Islam or a particular dance on TikTok. They're all things that, to the extent that they can replicate themselves, then there will be more of them going future, or that idea will continue to exist, or that particular architectural design, or whatever it happens to be in this
Mm.
competition of ideas. And the weird thing is like the human minds are kind of like this reservoir of viruses, of idea viruses, and we can kind of get overtaken. Like I think happiness itself is a conceptual thing that there's this idea of, oh, I should be happy and these sorts of things should make me happy, and kind of our whole mental machinery can kind of get taken over by different weird clusters of like
Yeah, happiness is a bit of a. I think that's a bit of like a bit of a. Yeah, I don't think it's a good target. I think, but what I think just being present, I think,
yeah,
is the thing. And then you're going to have your living organism. You're going to have ups and downs all the time, you
right,
know. But I think if
yeah,
you're present all the time and not too attached to things, yeah, I'm basically a Buddhist who's
yeah,
listening.
yeah. No, I'm there with you. I'm there with you, and I think it is. I'm still not able to practice it as effectively as I would like, but this is certainly parts of the things that Eckhart Tolle is saying, which is, I mean, I think he's totally honest about lifting ideas from Buddhism and Christianity and all this other, and saying that
Who is this?
Eckhart Tolle, who you
Oh yeah,
mentioned
sorry, yeah, no, he does,
earlier.
yeah, no, he's honest about that, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, and but yeah, this idea, like so, for example, I've been out today and I've seen my aunt and extended family, and that's really lovely. And actually, one of the reasons that I moved back to the UK was to make sure that I would actually be able to stay in touch with that side of the family, and it was sort of lovely. But I had eaten a bit too much for several days in a row, and like also kind of like going and seeing the family was sort of like nostalgic, and then there's relatives who've passed on who I miss, and then I sort of there were different sorts of discomfort. I mean, it was a lovely privileged day that I wasn't being shot at by anybody or all these kinds of things, but
yeah.
it was there were discomforts in the day, and I think part of the trick is allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, or allowing yourself to be is allowing those feelings, because often more complicated than the situation that you're in or the feelings that you're having is resisting being in that situation, saying it must change. I don't like this feeling. I want this feeling to go away.
Oh
No,
yeah,
why?
you acceptance, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So that sort of acceptance, and then being present and not resisting any kind of the feeling that you're having in the moment, and sort of accepting it, because if you resist it, it tends to stick around and get more difficult. If you can actually totally accept, I'm feeling this way. Like right now, for example, I kind of need to pee. We're going a little bit long, which I hope you're not too short of time. I'm loving the
No, no, yeah,
conversation,
no, yeah, yeah, like by all means, yeah, I have to
but
shoot soon, but yeah, no,
yeah, no,
that's
no, we
fine.
did definitely need to wrap it up. I'm just sort of like connecting. I'm being present with my feeling of needing to pee, and like, I could make that into a big deal and a problem, and or I could just sort of be present with the needing to pee and needing to wrap the
Yeah,
podcast up.
yeah.
But I mean, there's a sorry, like on the or ET, as I'm going to call him, the Eckhart Tolle ET thing, where he also talks about this kind of like we're all the same being, and we're all in love with each other, and all these other things, which is kind of like, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of, that would be nice, but who knows? Is there I mean, you've summarized it nicely, and I've riffed on about, well, riff is a strong word. I've burbled on about lots of other things. Is there anything you'd like to add beyond just the presence? Is there? I mean, I presume you were brought up Catholic. Is there any? Do you have any sense of like a pervading oneness in the universe, or it's just like important to be present?
Is it, yeah, is it that simple? I mean, no, I believe in like a collective subconscious
Mm.
kind of thing. Are we all one? And is it all that like the heavy acid trip kind of level stuff? Um, yeah, it's not something. Yeah, it's not something I think about. I do think there's a collective sort of consciousness.
Mm.
Um, but are we all one? And is everybody lovely and beautiful? I don't know.
Nah, yeah, yeah, yeah. The collective. I mean, I'd spend a lot of time thinking about the collective subconscious these days, and about is there any way to like dem? Because it's a funny thing because it's like it seems like you can't really prove that it doesn't exist, can't prove that it does exist. It's a really interesting idea that we're kind of like all
Well,
one.
that collective consciousness is basically now kind of produced on the internet, and it's it's a lot of shit on there.
Yes, yes, and it's that's well. I guess there's the collective consciousness in the kind of like conceptual
That's
space of
basically
ideas.
a
Go
big
on.
version of a human brain, which is just like a lot of shit in there. There's a lot of stuff a lot of thoughts you have to
Oh yeah,
ignore. There
yeah,
is some good things. Uh, and they've basically created a massive human mess of a brain with
it
everyone's input.
has. Yeah,
That's what it is. So that's we've actually actualized the collective subconscious, and
right,
it ain't
right.
pretty at times, you know.
No, it's a strange, twisted beast. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing I wonder is there, even if you took the whole internet away, is there, what's hinted at is this idea that when you meditate and you kind of drop to this kind of like deeper level, that you're actually connecting with some sort of like broader universal consciousness. But
No,
hey,
there's yeah. I mean, well, I meditate, and I've been doing it on and to varying degrees for like 15 years or something now.
oh yeah,
But yeah, and the reason they've started doing it for like long stints, like 35 minutes, that
oh
kind
yeah,
of. And I do from some of the sessions, I come out of there and I'm like, yeah, you come out of there uh, with a joy and I come out of there funny sometimes as well, more
mm,
funny than I went in. You would do it generally first thing in the morning, and just because it's made a little bit of space in there.
right,
And I think space is the big thing. You gotta have no space.
yeah, oh fantastic.
With
Well, you heard
all
it,
the thoughts and worries and bullshit.
yeah. You heard it here first, folks. Gerry Devitt saying, "Yeah, meditate for being funny, being profitable. It's clearly something we can monetize going forwards." Jerry, it's been a great conversation. People will be desperate to know
Oh,
more about how they can get in touch with you, watch your comedy. Where should they go if they want to see more of you?
actually, I haven't got. I have to go and organize my. I have to organize it. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not involved. This is a classic flaw of mine. I'm the opposite of you, basically, in terms of organization.
You're the yin to my yang or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think I know that because I've connected to you on like a couple of social media platforms, so we'll maybe get links to those when you're ready into the show notes. And
Yes,
well,
I'll send you some. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks everyone. Remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us continue to produce this show. I don't know that anybody has ever or ever will go there. Maybe the alien archaeologists one day. Probably the best way you can support us. I mean, hey, you can give us money, but that's is really like to just sort of like follow us on Spotify. That's I'm told that this really affects the algorithm. So do follow us on Spotify or I think Apple Podcasts. And we'd love to hear from you. What do you think of meditation? What do you think of living in Ireland? What do you think of the English? What's going on with comedy? Follow our Facebook group, comment there, ask questions there, or do that on Spotify as well. And we look forward to being in your ears again really soon. And finally, last word to our fantastic guest, Gerry Devitt.
You are not your situation, Sam. Or me, or you, anybody.